Auntie Claus and the Key to Christmas, written by Elise Primavera. The doors closed and the elevator began to move. "Wait!" Chris screamed. "Remember, you're the new elf!" Sophie's voice faded as the elevator rose higher and higher. "I'm the new elf?" Chris said as the elevator began to pick up speed. "I'm the new elf," he repeated through chattering teeth. The night was getting colder and colder. Chris looked around the elevator and was relieved to see a warm jacket, a hat, a pair of mittens, socks, boots, and trousers all neatly folded into one corner. He quickly put them on and placed the key around his neck. The elevator continued its trip through the starry night. Thunk! The elevator landed and Chris stepped out. "I'm the new elf," he said loud and clear. "Hello, Mr. Pudding here, head elf in charge of vital rules and information." "Oh, good," said Chris. "You're just the person I was told to see." Oh dear. Who did you say you are?" The new elf," said Chris. "Oh, no, you're not." Mr. Pudding looked closely at Chris. "You are Christopher Kringle. Oh dear. He pulled out a little red and green book and he started to read. At 10:12 a.m., that's Eastern Standard Time, on November 8th through the 14th, Christopher Kringle made rude noises and on those days did not say please or thank you. Oh dear, let me see. Vegetable squashing, eating with his mouth open. We've got quite a bit of insisting on his own way. Oh dear. December 20th, cheating at Candyland." Mr. Pudding escorted Chris out of the gates. "Sorry, but it's a rule, part of arrival procedures. No B, and G's, meaning no spoiled brats, no crybabies, and absolutely positively no one who doesn't believe," he whispered. And then Mr. Pudding closed the gates. But, Chris wailed. "I was just trying to get on the BB&G list on purpose." Oh dear, said Mr. Pudding. "No whiners either." And he locked the gates. "Mr. Pudding," Chris called, "you don't understand. It's not my fault. It's Ozzy and Pam's." "Ozzy and Pam?" some voices said. Chris was startled to see a company of snowboys. "You know them?" he said. "The Spam twins are members in very good standing," they all replied. "Members?" asked Chris. "They are international sensations," they added. "Can you help me?" Chris asked. "I've been locked out of Christmas." "Locked out of Christmas? Come with us. We're on our way to see the High Head. He'll like you." Yeah, but will I like him, Chris thought, because these snowboys were already starting to get on my nerves. Down they marched. It began to drizzle as the snowboys sang, "We're spoiled brats, we like to whine. We're prickly as a porcupine. We don't believe in you-know-who, or reindeer that can fly. If we don't get our way, we'll scream, we'll bite, we'll cry. Yes, we're on the list every year, until we're 21, and we don't care because being bad is just too much fun. And when we're all grown up, we'll have one great big goal to turn your sparkly diamonds into little lumps of coal. In short, we love to burst balloons. Our hero's Ebenezer Scrooge. And why is that? Because we're prunes, Chris whispered. Welcome, said the high head. There was a flash of lightning. These weren't snow boys, Chris thought. They're prune boys. Now he could see that not only the BB&G list was real, but his name was the first one on it. There was a clap of thunder, and it began to rain. Lovely, said the high head in a booming voice. What can I do for you, my boy? You see, it all started with Ozzie and Pam, Chris started to explain. He was beginning to think that maybe those smarty pants spams didn't know so much after all. Ozzie and Pam spam? Said the head prune. Fine children. Cream of the crop. Cream of the crop, your royal prune chip, said the prune boys. As I was saying, I was locked out of Christmas, Chris continued. Locked out of Christmas. I'm not sure even the Spam twins could manage that, said the head prune. They wouldn't even try, oh pruniest one, said the prune boys. You're a fine example of a BB&G, said the high head. State your name. Like the Spams, you, yes, you, can be a lifetime member, guaranteed. Member schmember. I want to go home, Chris thought. He was even beginning to miss Sophie. I'm Christopher Kringle, he said. As in Santa Claus? Said the prunes. Yes, replied Chris. The prune boys started to giggle. We don't believe in Santa Claus, they snickered. I'm Christopher Kringle, he said louder this time, and I do. Phooey, we don't believe in you, sneered the head prune. Just at that moment, Sophie's key sparkled and flashed in the dreary prune light, and it reminded Chris of something he had heard many times but had forgotten. If times turn sour and bitter, think like a Kringle. You'll soon find your way to all that sparkles and glitters. I'm not a prune. I'm a Kringle, Chris said, and I am absolutely positive there is a Santa Claus. A hush fell over the prune headquarters. And I don't believe in you, Chris shouted. Something extraordinary was happening, where the prunes were beginning to shrink. Well, Chris couldn't believe his eyes. Now look what you've gone and done, wailed the head prune. Christopher Kringle, Chris shouted again as loudly as he could. The head prune and his prune boys were shriveling up fast now, shriveling up like prunes. Then some really strong magic happened. Just as in Auntie Claus's poem, the sour prunes coal that had been collecting in the prune hall for ever so long was changing from dark and bitter lumps into diamonds that sparkled and glittered. Chris found himself whirling around and around through the air at a dizzying speed, in a blur of prune purple into bright Christmas green. He closed his eyes. When Chris opened his eyes, he saw he was standing once again outside the gates. A clock struck midnight, and the gates opened. Santa Claus circled above and landed. Ho, ho, ho! Welcome to Christmas, Santa said. Merry Christmas, Santa, Chris shouted. Then from behind the sleigh out stepped Auntie Claus, Chris exclaimed. My one and only sister, Santa said. Couldn't get through Christmas without her, right, lads? Hooray for Auntie Claus! Everyone cheered. Turning to Chris, Auntie Claus winked and she said, I knew you had it in you, darling. They climbed into the sleigh and they headed for the grand ballroom. But there was one thing that Chris wondered about. Santa, he said, did you happen to get any letters from a couple of twins? Before Santa even heard him, Auntie Claus handed Chris 2 letters. Not surprisingly, they were nearly identical. Just as Chris finished reading them, a gust of wind blew the letters out of his hand. He watched as they vanished into the dark and snowy night. The sleigh entered the grand ballroom, and there were Chris's parents and his sister Sophie. Merry Christmas, everyone, Chris called to his family. So, do you believe me now? Sophie asked her little brother. Chris took Sophie's diamond key and he placed it back around her neck. Like I always say, think like a Kringle, said Chris. His cheeks were red and his eyes sparkled. He's so much like his uncle, his parents said proudly. A real chip off the old block, said Auntie Claus. But shouldn't Chris get a key too? Sophie asked. Chris smiled mysteriously and replied, I did get the key. Dear boy, Auntie Claus said, patting him on the head. There's no doubt about it, darling, she whispered in his ear. And from that day on there never was, believe it or not. So, as you can see, everything turned out just fine. Recently I asked Christopher, do you remember the year that you learned about our little family secret? He chuckled and said, yes, I do. But that year I received the best Christmas gift ever. To believe is the key to Christmas. Ah, yes, the key, darlings, the one that can't be seen. But then all the best things are invisible. Love and Merry Kringle, Auntie Claus.